Hey everyone, so with that huge new patch that we just had, it definitely means we've got some new Korean picks and builds to take a look at today. I'm sure somebody will put it into a comment, so you can go and read that if you want to, and thank you to Mobalytics for the builds for the video, and you can check that out down below as well. I'm going to stop saying that I stalk these builds before you guys get me arrested, but first up we have one of the biggest changes. So in patch 9.14 we had a bunch of like hard counter mechanics kind of added into the game, and one of those was to Kled. They added healing reduction to his Q. It basically means every single time that you all in somebody, when you tug them, you cut their healing by 60%, and a lot of top laners have healing. That 60% is actually more than you'd get from Executioner's Calling, and that effectively saves you 800 gold if you had to buy that in a matchup. Stuff like Renekton, Aatrox, Darius, Vlad, Riven, Mordekaiser, Aurelia, the list goes on. They are all meta champions, all very strong, and they all use healing to win. Even in matchups that don't use healing, most of them are going to have healing potions, so they pop a potion as you fight to give a bit more health, right? Well, now you get even less from that as well. Basically, Kled is going to use this to have an even stronger lane phase and get an even bigger lead, even bigger than he was before. He has way more health than most other champions just because of the mounting system and how that works. Like, honestly, a lot of people don't really even know how that works, so you can bait people in with it as well. This is what really leads him to be the best top laner before 25 minutes now in Korea at the moment. That crazy strong early game sets him up for a really good mid game, but you're not playing him to drag the game out. It's kind of like a Darius. Unlike Darius though, once he does win his lane phase, he has a very easy way to move that lead around the rest of the map. So often what they do in Korea as well is they base, they run down to bot lane, they ultimate down the lane as well to gank, and then they TP back top lane after they get the kill. So moving on to our next one, it's completely different. It's actually not at all. It's the same thing. Who would have guessed the other healing reduction champion that was buffed is also here, but for a slightly different reason. So KATARINA also had the healing reduction on her ultimate buffed up to 60%. She obviously already had it on there before. This was just an increase. There are some mid champions that have healing, but honestly, it's not really as much of a big deal in the lane phase. For KATARINA, she applies it AoE, so to everybody around her, which is much better for these early kind of skirmishes and fights. It's also really good for screwing an AD carry who has some healing from supports probably in the game anyway, like a redemption or their summoner heal, right? So she can delete them a lot easier in 9.14. The other side to this pick is something we've looked at before ages ago, but there is this Death Dance build for KATARINA now. When you play her like this, she's reducing everybody's healing around her, but she's also healing for more herself now. When you put them both together, she becomes insanely hard to kill and shut down, and that is really why you'd build it. So the build is Gunblade healing, which is 15% or 5% for AoE, and then Death Dance healing, which actually is the same thing again. You then got Conqueror, which heals you for 8% of damage, which makes your ultimate do true damage as well, by the way. And you've got Ravenous Hunter, which heals for a bunch. You can actually go normal electrocute as well, by the way, if you want to, but in Korea, this is the current meta build. So 2 reasons why it works now, just so you know. Death Dance was changed to heal from all damage, not just physical, and our abilities actually do have 80 ratios on them, so that buffs that up. The other side, so Conqueror, that now stacks from abilities as well, so it means that you can get to 5 stacks just as use your ultimate in a full combo. She can spiral out of control as a champion anyway, even when you know what she is going to do, right? You have to crowd control her and stop her ultimate. The burst is just so fast, sometimes you can't stop it in time. We're going to look at a support next, and Bard is technically speaking one of the best supports to play right now, but he's nowhere near as popular as other picks. He was actually buffed in 9.14 as well, given more health to start the game, and he's now able to move faster through his tunnel. His allies actually also move 3 times as fast through to start the game, which in Riot's eyes makes him a better roamer and a better like kind of gank assist champion. It turns out that's actually pretty accurate, and it gives you less time to react now when you see a tunnel open up behind you, so they are more successful. Bard has been underrated for a while in my opinion anyway. He has some really good damage in lane phase, and nobody can really match the speed at which you roam. Other champions are good at roaming anyway, like Pyke for example, but by the time someone is pinged Bard's missing, he's pretty much already in another lane. Right now, he's actually top 3 in Korea for early game supports, which you'd kind of guess, right? Like the stun in the lane phase with the follow-up damage is probably a kill, especially with Electrocute and Ignite. The good part is that he stays relatively useful, like a lot through items really, like Redemption and Locket, but then he has a really good late game. Like so good, it's like top 3 again for supports when you get later, which seems kind of weird because his abilities aren't that great for team fights. It's not really about those things as much as it's about his passive though. It's just so insane once you've collected a bunch of chimes, and I don't think it's that uncommon to have like really high damage on a damage chart at the end of a game. The last thing I want to touch on is that if you rush a redemption, this is the way you should really do it. Right now, you win over 60% of games in Korea. You get it so early, it massively helps in early team fights, and Redemption Locket is just so strong on him. Bard is basically a jungler, so we're going to stick with our jungle picks, and there are two junglers right now that dominate in Korea. So Elise, and now more and more EVELYNN. This started back in 9.10 when Runic Echoes was made cheaper down to 2,500, but it also kind of mirrored a lot of really big bully junglers getting nerfed at the same time. We then had the crab change to slow down the jungle a little bit, and this is exactly what Eve wanted. Eve is the opposite of what Korea normally loves. Like, they want fast-paced, heavy gankers and stuff like snowball early, but EVELYNN is nothing like that. Her win rate before 15 is actually terrible. It's probably one of the lowest in the game, and even before 30, it's nothing to like write home about. It's not that good. After that though is when she really shines. At like 3+ items, that's when you kind of kick it into another gear. I think she is basically the best late game assassin in the game at the moment. I can't think of anybody who's better. Like, her whole kit is really designed for it. Her E actually does percentage maximum health damage, and that is increased as well by how much AP you have. So as you go through the game, it does way more. Your ultimate is a 30% execute threshold, and obviously 30% late game is just way more health than early game. She has a built-in 35% magic resist shred, and that charm as well, that does 450 damage late game without the ratio even added on top. Basically, she scales like an absolute monster, and she is one jungler that can actually carry her entire team, and that is why Korea kind of loves her. With more tanks in the game anyway, like Zac is pretty good at the moment, less people invading or forcing early fights, this is kind of like the perfect storm for her to be really good again. She's also really good at smashing AD carries. Like, she can two-shot them even without her ultimate, so that's what we're going to go into next. AD carry in Korea is a bit weird, because basically half the games have Ezreal and the other half have Kai'Sa. At higher ranks especially though, people play a lot of poke VARUS, and this is a really fun build. It's really good early game because of the constant pounding that you dish out, but it doesn't scale in the same way as it normally would, like around your autos. Let's start with the lane phase. So you're stacking armor pen when they have no armor, so you just burn through what little they do have and then get pretty close to true damage. Once you've poked them down a little bit and you have a support as well, adding in a bit more damage, like, it's really easy to just get control of the lane, and there's not much the enemy bot lane can do. It is sometimes quite hard to turn those into kills and not just like force the enemy bot lane to base unless your support does something, but when you get level 6, you can ult and it all changes. You get 3 blight stacks while they're rooted, so you press your W for the execute and you charge up your Q, and that is pretty much a one-shot kill combo, honestly, and nobody ever expects it. After that, really, you're trying to poke people down. You're doing the same thing over and over. It's just like a rinse and repeat. Even in teamfights, you're looking to ultimate somebody to catch them, to burst them down, and then have the follow-up from your team as well. We also aren't running Manamune anymore. It's a bit too slow with the tier, but the thing is, you don't have the backup of when it transforms to Mirror Mana to make your auto attacks hit a bit harder. It is basically all about poke now, catch and bursting people down with this build. There is also a page though that you can do that is running Untitled Spellbook instead with pretty much the same items. I covered that in my weird builds video earlier this week or last week, so I'll chuck up the setup for that if you want to try it. It's basically the same thing. You just swap your summoner spells to suit the situation a little bit better. So actually one of the strongest picks in the game right now, as you guys probably already know, is Pyke support, and Korea instantly became obsessed with this when the patch dropped. The changes are a little bit confusing, honestly, and I thought the change that meant your ultimate does 50% reduced damage if somebody survives would really hurt. Apparently it doesn't though, because the extra gold is just way too good now, but you really cannot use it for damage. They actually tried to buff solo lane Pyke with this, by the way, but it didn't really work as they planned. The change is just that he gets extra cut gold now as well as the other person. That is for the kill, and if instead he gets the assist on it, he'll actually get 2 your cut. So it basically doubled the amount of gold that Pyke was generating from using his ultimate as an execute. He gets his items sooner before you can build any armor, and he'll probably end up being more of a threat than his AD mid game. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's honestly like true. This whole solo lane Pyke thing started because he actually has really good scalings in his kit built in anyway. Like, he's actually very good with items. His ultimate execute threshold, for example, is based on a base damage and then some of his AD and then how much lethality he has on top. Basically, if you get items faster now, you're actually going to use them really well for a support especially, and do a lot more damage. He's still a really good kill lane anyway. Like, one hook can be enough to blow a flash or get a kill from the stun, and then it's going to be so tough to recover when they have such a big gold lead. They basically made it kind of like playing like a Draven, right? Like, one mistake and he can get way further ahead than anybody else can, and that just makes it really hard to play against. So moving on to our other mid laner for this video, we are going to take a look at Fizz, and he might take a little bit of a tumble eventually, because right now apparently he can apply electrocute with 1 auto attack. That is getting fixed, and regardless of that part, the passive buff was actually really nice in 9.14, and right now he is insanely strong. Probably the best assassin that you can play. It's very similar, but his old passive would block some basic attack damage, but now he's able to block all sources of damage like abilities and everything, and it also has an AP ratio to scale better into the game. I think Fizz has been like a little bit underrated for a while. His lane phase isn't going to be the strongest because he's melee, but once he gets 6, it kind of swings around. Not many champions can absorb his ultimate and actually live afterwards, so every time it's off cooldown cooldown, he just ults, he gets another kill, and gets even further ahead. After he's basically made the enemy mid laner worth no gold, he'll roam to other lanes, and he does the same thing again, and it actually scales really well. His best win rate in Korea is full build, technically, where he can still one-shot backline carries, and landing his ultimate is still pretty much a death sentence, like, which is not normal for assassins at all. It isn't just about the damage, because other assassins can kill stuff late game as well. He's also just mega slippery. Obviously, he's got his E, which helps a ton. His Q is going to help as well, but then he's got his Zhonya's, so that can buy time for another round of cooldowns to either escape or kill somebody else. I don't want to go too ham into Fizz because he might fall off really hard after the bug fix. I don't think so. He's definitely stronger than before outside of that, but I don't want to go too much into it. That's going to wrap up the video for today, and those are going to be a bunch of new picks in Korea that I could find that are doing way better this patch than they were last. Hopefully there's at least one build in here that you didn't know about or you want to go and try. If you do, let me know how it goes. Good luck in your games, but thank you for watching until the very end, and for now, I will leave you with the robot.